I remember a couple months ago, somebody telling me that I may want to consider changing the name The Billionaire Chef. And this was because Americans like a humble immigrant story. And I laughed. And I said, well, I'm not a humble immigrant. I am the billionaire chef. I've been cooking for billionaires all my life. I come from wealth. I come from a wealthy culture. And so I'm not going to dumb that down in order to fit in. You're either going to like it or you're not. My name is Tolu Eros, popularly known as Chef Eros. I'm the founder and the executive chef at Chef Eros & Co., restaurants and bakery in Lagos, Nigeria, and recently in Los Angeles. I want to say that I was probably 13 when I started business in the food scene, I would say. I started off selling cheese balls to the lady in my tuck shop. And then taking that on, I went to university. And in university, I started selling chicken under a brand called The Chicken Guy. This was in the UK. So I went to school in the UK. I studied international business management at the University of Wolverhampton. And at the University of Wolverhampton, I started to sell chicken to just my students, my co-students, you know. But whilst I was doing that, I also did a lot of jobs, work in the hospitality scene. I worked as a bartender. That was my first job, was working as a bartender. And then I also worked as a waiter, worked in the kitchen, and then did a bunch of other things in sales and marketing and customer service. And then when I was done with uni, I moved back home in 2008 to join forces with my mom to start a restaurant. We opened a restaurant called La Saison in 2008, or rather we bought a restaurant called La Saison in 2008. And that was the beginning of my career officially in the food business. We shut that down in 2011. And then in 2012, I opened the bakery, Cookie Jar. And I would say my cookies made me famous because I think when I opened Cookie Jar was when a lot of people started to hear about the Chef Eros name. I trained myself to become a pastry chef and then also trained myself to become a cuisine chef. Studying online, practicing, trying out new things, and just taking risks, really. I got the moniker name The Billionaire Chef for catering for a lot of billionaires in Nigeria. And it just kind of stuck. Forbes wrote an article, The Man Who Knows What Billionaires Eat for Lunch. You know, a lot of my friends kept calling me the Billionaire Chef, and then one day I changed my name on Instagram to the Billionaire Chef, and I got verified immediately. And so that for me was speaking into existence as I studied international business management, and I remember many times asking myself, why am I cooking? You know, I could do anything, really. And why am I cooking? But there was just some sort of love, you know, that I had for cooking, but more so the passion for the task, you know, of delivering an unforgettable culinary experience, you know. And it's just every time I watch people eat my food or I hear feedback on the experience dining with me, it just makes me want to do more. And so obviously I pursued that passion, opened another restaurant in 2018 called Eros, which means House of Love. It's been a journey since, you know. I recently moved to Los Angeles about a year ago, and about 4 months ago, we opened this space, LA, which is a tasting concept kitchen. How we do tasting experiences where we're taking you on a journey, you know, down memory lane, telling you stories about the culinary landscape and giving you, you know, taste of our cuisine and our culture. LA is the capital of entertainment. You know, and I've always loved Los Angeles from every time that I visited. You'd always watch, you know, TV, and Los Angeles is always like a highlight point. But then my cousin had moved to Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and sometime in 2016, 17, I visited him, and I just loved it here. I just felt very at home. I felt very, very at home. So I guess when it was time for me to start thinking about international expansion, I was thinking about how I can reach a wider audience, the widest audience, you know. I studied international business management in the United Kingdom, lived in London. Didn't really work in London, but obviously experienced the cuisine, you know, the culinary landscape of, you know, the United Kingdom, London in particular. Moved back to Nigeria, and During my years in Nigeria, I was very intentional about learning about our cuisine and our food and our flavors. And, I that's where I gained a lot of my experience. A lot of my experience came from working hands-on. It was literally the school of hard knocks. I got to work with a lot of different chefs from different walks of life. When it was time for me to start really thinking about expanding and exporting our cuisine, which for me is my biggest goal, is to put West African cuisine on the global food map. I needed to choose a city that could reach the widest audience possible. Last year, I decided to go on a holiday tour, and that for me was almost research into which city was ideal. So I came into Los Angeles, and then we went to New York, went to the Hamptons, went to Dallas, Houston, Miami, and Atlanta, and came back to LA. At the end of the day, LA felt more like home, and they accepted me the most. I think people here were more experimental, I think. I felt like I could reach a wider audience here. Plus, I had family that lived here, so it felt a little like home. At least I was close to some family. And when I got my O1 visa and I started looking for a place, I happened to find a place that is right across the street from Netflix and up the road from CNN. And so I guess it was meant to be. I was definitely an outspoken child. I didn't read a lot, but I understood a lot, and I asked a lot of questions, and I took risks. And I think that's still who I am today. I am very outspoken. I say what's on my mind. I do what I think I want to do. I don't just think about it. I think about it and I do it. I still don't read a lot. I'm entertained by things on TV, and I'm able to take risks and achieve my set goals. I think that child inside of me is still willing to take so many risks. And living in Nigeria and living a very successful business in Nigeria, to move to Los Angeles, it's almost like a child of acting, right? It's almost like the child inside of me who wanted to just run with it, The adult in me would have said, sit down, calculate this. Does this make sense? Does this add up? But the child in me didn't think about it and just went with the flow, and I'm very glad that I did, because as you can see, this has been a huge success story. And so it is very important to still keep that child in you whilst also remembering that you're an adult, and you have to take time to also obviously, think about your decisions again. So whilst that I take those risks, I'm still at the back of my mind asking myself, questions. Is this the right move? Am I making the right decision? But I'm also not overthinking it. So no, I don't work every day. I try and take at least one day to myself. And so to give you an idea of a typical day in my life, or rather a typical week, because no day is the same for me. I'm stuff with Sunday, for example, was my rest day this week. And it varies. Sometimes it's Monday, sometimes it's Sunday. This week it was Sunday, so I stayed in bed all day, ordered food in, went out at night to grab ice cream, came back, watched some TV, and went to bed early. Woke up in the morning today, went to the gym, ran some errands, went to the bank, got a COVID test done just to check, because I'm obviously interacting with so many people. Just ran errands all day. Now I'm about to do some admin, schedule my week, plan out all. I've already done my itinerary. I do my itinerary on Sunday. But now to just plan out all the preps that I have to do. I have dinners on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so I have to plan everything out, schedule all the staff that are coming in. I'm going to start off in the morning with grocery shopping. In the afternoon, I'm going to do all my prep work. And then in the evening, I'll do a little more admin. On Wednesday, I'll start off in the morning with finishing up prep. And then I have guests coming in the afternoon, late afternoon for dinner, for early dinner, I'll call it. And then they're going to be here until obviously nighttime, about 7, 8. And once they get out, finish up, tidy up, get any little prep that needs to be done. And then Wednesday, just roll it over again up until Sunday, really. And then I'll probably take a break on Monday. And Tuesday would be admin day. Wednesday, finish up admin, getting all my prep together, and then Thursday, Friday, dinner. I think I'm flying out on Friday, heading to Dallas. So it's a day in my life. It's back to back nonstop. I don't really take I don't take many days off, but I do try as much as possible to take one day to myself to do absolutely nothing. Just relax, chill, refresh, and just have the energy and drive for the coming week. And then also in between all of this, I took a nap just before you came. So in between my hectic days, I try as much as possible to schedule in, even if it's a 30 minutes, 45 minutes power nap, just to get my, energy back. Okay, so how do you become Chef Eros one day at a time? That's a tough question because honestly, I couldn't tell you that there's a recipe kit or like specific things. I was definitely intentional about having an identity and having a style and being uniquely me. Unlike many chefs or a few other chefs out there, I have a gift. Some people have to go to school to learn how to cook, all right? And then learn, techniques. I have a gift and I'm able to see something and recreate it. I'm able to taste something and recreate it. But that doesn't mean that I still didn't need to train, right? So I take a lot of courses online. I look up recipes, and I think the thing about looking up recipes is, and I learned this when I was learning to be a pastry chef, right? Was because obviously I didn't go to school where somebody could tell me this is the right way to do it, right? So I'm having to do my own research and come up with my own theory, right? And that's something I learned also from business school, is there's so many different theories out there, but you have to draw your own conclusion, right? And so for example, I want to make a cheesecake, right? I'm going to look up 5, 6, 10 different recipes. I'm going to see the similarities and I'll see certain things that everyone is doing and I'll bank those. And I'll see what people are doing differently and also read the reviews and see what people are saying about those things. And then I'm going to go into the kitchen and I'm going to give myself 3 chances to make it right. I'll do it the first time, and even when I get it the first time, I still tell myself there's something better out there. I'll do it a second time, and then I'll do it a third time. And at the third time, I would draw my conclusion of which is the right way to go, and that's how I do it, right? But also, I had to create, a niche for myself, right? And so if you ask me what my niche is, it's storytelling alongside modern West African cuisine. So it's not just modern West African, but there's also storytelling. And then I also have a unique presentation style that you can sort of tell that I made this or I plated this. And then also finding my flavor profiles, right? I know what I like and I cook for myself first. If I don't like the taste of something, I ain't cooking it, right? Because I'm never going to be able to determine whether it's good or not, all right? So unfortunately, I can't make something that I don't enjoy. I'm not going to make something that I don't enjoy or I can't eat. Or luckily I can eat everything. I think a really good chef is about a really good palate. And so I spend a lot of time training that palate. And that's where traveling around the world, going to different restaurants, trying out different cuisines has really helped develop that palate, because I can taste something and I can taste when I tasted something better, right? And so when I cook something and I taste it, if it doesn't taste best, then I need to go back and do it again, right? I also know what I like personally as my palate, and that's what I put out because that's my identity, right? And so if you eat my food, you would always notice a little bit of sweet, a little bit of spiciness, a little bit of smokiness, a little bit of saltiness. Those are kind of my flavor profiles. But then I also like textures, and so there's always going to be some crunch. I always think about those elements, like where's the crunch element here? Or where's the sauce? I could never make anything and have it without sauce. It needs to be juicy, wet, I don't do dry fruit, and so that's just my style. And so my advice to any chef would be to find your style, find what you like, and put that foot forward all the time. Whilst you can draw inspiration from other chefs, do your very best never to copy, because I think that there's a personality within that is suppressed when you're copying somebody else. So you need to find your own self and be authentically you. I've always wanted to be an entertainer. I just happen to find myself as more of an entrepreneur, and then with a niche in the food scene. And I was just going with the flow for the longest time, trying to figure out if I was eventually going to maybe go to film school or pursue music, things that I was passionate about as a kid. I definitely knew that music wasn't going to be the core, but I wasn't sure what was going to happen with my passion for screenplay, right? Acting. Now, I'm cooking. I'm not the kind of chef who likes to stay at the back. I'm the kind of chef that likes to do the prep, do the cooking, and come out, right? I enjoy mostly walking the room, seeing how people are enjoying the food. But I think what is most important for me has always been exporting my culture, using food as a medium of communication. As an entertainer, I was able to do that, or I'm able to do that, by telling stories about my culture and tying it back to the food that I'm presenting to you. So I want to tell you a story about the Yoruba people. I am going to make something from the Yoruba people. If you go to any country, and you want to learn about the culture, the first thing you would do is go out and eat their food. And so as I travel the world and as I introduce people to my culture, I'm introducing them to my culture using food. But I'm also telling them stories about my people and my life experiences with food. It's just my unique way of exporting my culture and also delivering an unforgettable culinary experience. That's always been our mantra from the get-go. It's always been about how do I make sure that every single time that I serve you a dish, you could not forget it. From when I started, I was putting food in glasses. I was the guy who started that whole put food in champagne glasses, wine glasses, all of that, because I wanted to be remembered. I wanted you to go home and talk about it and say, oh, I had food, it was in this, And then as it became a thing, I moved into this now. And this is now my core style. And it's the most memorable way to dine, in my opinion, right? Whilst the food is good and whilst it looks good, what you're hearing and what you're imagining is also quite important. And so whilst I've worked so hard to make sure that the food is good and it looks good on a plate, I'm also tying in music and words to tell you a story, to paint a picture that you will remember, right? And also put the right message in your brain about my people, because the African story hasn't always been told correctly. I remember a couple months ago, somebody telling me that I may want to consider changing the name The Billionaire Chef. And this was because Americans like a humble immigrant story. And I laughed. And I said, well, I'm not a humble immigrant. I am the billionaire chef. I've been cooking for billionaires all my life. I come from wealth. I come from a wealthy culture. And so I'm not going to dumb that down in order to fit in. You're either going to like it or you're not. And so right here, what I do is telling you about my people, my culture, and the wealth of our culture and our cuisine, right? And so I'm taking you on a journey down the culinary landscape and telling you stories about my people, about not just my family, but also the different people that are Nigerians, that are West Africans. And it's a very interesting, unique way of dining. And I think that many other chefs from different countries should probably try it too. That what they can do. I call myself a social butterfly, but I was not always a social butterfly. I had to be intentional about socializing and just being out there. That's the first thing, right? The second was always remembering and reminding myself that one job is going to lead to the next one. And so even when I wasn't being paid enough to do what I was doing, I was still doing it anyway, right? I'll give you an example. One of my first main jobs was to do canapes for an event. But then when I was having meetings with the client, I realized that they were just going to get like local caterers to do the rest of the food. And so I opted to do part of the rest of the food to showcase what I could do. And I did my canapes and I did a part of the rest of the food complimentary. They felt like they owed me, and so they were always like pitching me to the people. But also I got other people to try out my food and then refer me to someone else. So it's always good look to, sort of bend over backwards and give a little more than you're getting, you know? I used to do a lot of tastings when I started. I'll do exhibitions and things like that just to get people to taste what I have to offer. But more than anything else, it's really word of mouth that sells the most in this industry. The food tastes good, and so people are always going to come back for it or going to refer someone else to it. But I think it was also just my professionalism as well as presentation, style, and presence, confidence. You know, I go in there with the mindset that I'm the best. And while I'm cooking, I'll be asking myself, will the best cook like this? Will the best do this? And with that mindset, I'm able to put my best food forward and let God do the rest. I think the team is very important. So I'm constantly building a team. I'm still building a team right now. And you have to have multiple options because people are going to move on. People are going to go do other things. And so when I came here, how did I build a team? Was by doing the tours that I did. And as I was traveling to different cities, I was putting word out, ask people that live there, if they knew anyone. I meet one person, I ask them if they know somebody else, you know, and that's how I build my team. I'm constantly looking, I'm constantly searching for new great talent, you know, new people to join my team. You can come in and watch me one day, but then I'm watching you. Seeing what you do will help me to determine whether or not you're a right fit for my team. So yeah, I think a good team is the only reason why I could do what I'm doing. I've left a business back home in Nigeria that's running effectively and smoothly only because of a good team. I've had people in my kitchen. One of my chefs, my senior chef in the kitchen, has been with me for over 10 years, you know, and that's just loyalty alongside, you know, me also giving him what he wants. I'm always thinking about, you know, how to retain my people, how to keep them happy, and at the same time, how to make sure that they're growing and learning and, you know, getting better. People would move on if they're not growing or learning, regardless of how much you pay them. So it's very important to create an environment that allows for growth and learning. I think being an entrepreneur has taught me that I'm a huge risk taker. I don't take no for an answer, but at the same time, I don't beg for anything. I also let things happen in due time. And I'm patient. My moment of wonder. I feel like there's so many things that happen in my life. I think I was counting the other day and I've been through 11 brands. I've developed 11 brands in my life. And so there's so many moments when, one, I feel like I'm not doing enough. And I'm asking myself, how am I going to achieve my international status? So I guess one of my moments of wonder was changing my name on Instagram to the Billionaire Chef and getting verified and realizing that I needed to speak into existence for certain things to happen. And so I started to speak a lot of things into existence, but also speaking into existence requires you to speak with people that you can confide in and not just anybody. And so choosing those people wisely is also very important. Another moment of wonder was also when I came here and I was on the holiday tour, I decided that I was going to consider staying. And I said a prayer and said, God, I'm going to apply for a new visa. If I am meant to stay, you would make this easy and painless. And that's exactly what it was, completely easy and painless. I got a visa in less than 1 month, you know, and that never really happens. Other moments of wonder would probably be at a time when I got a quick notice I opened my bakery in 1004, which was an apartment complex. And unlike this, it wasn't a live work situation. It was residential, but I was doing my work until there anyway. And my neighbor next to me had a big issue with the amount of people that used to come there. She was just an old lady who had issues with everybody, right? But I happened to be her next door neighbor. And so she was handing the complex to get me out. And so they finally served me a quick notice, which is time to get out. And they gave me 30 days to get my stuff out of there. That basically pushed me to find the money to build a bigger space. And in 1 month, I had secured another location. I had purchased equipment and I had built what now became the Cookie Jars production factory. This is at a time when I was also working on opening a store on Admiralty Way, which is like a major highway in Lekki. So I find that my moments of wonder come out of necessity. My biggest saying is necessity is the mother of invention, right? It's like that popular saying that I abide by so close, because I've seen it happen so many times in my life. Put me in a tight corner and I would create magic. And so, yeah, I think my moments of wonder has always been a point when I've had to necessarily create something. Life-changing book I would recommend would be The Secret. Why? Because it worked magic for me. Knowingly or unknowingly, there were just so many things about The Secret, such as taking the first step and not worrying about, the distance. Speaking into existence, creating your reality. Those are things that, I read in that book, and from the moment I read that book, my life changed. I started to see things differently. And I also started to create my own reality. And also, be patient in my current reality whilst I'm creating the next reality, and enjoy the current one, because I have to go through different stages in life. I can't just go from 0 to 100. I have to go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And that's one of the things the book taught me, was that you're going to have to take those little steps one at a time. It's all about baby steps. All about baby steps. I'm inspired by my environment for the most part, and so I constantly surround myself around, good energy, good people, good food, good views. And my environment is sort of my biggest inspiration. And so I create that environment by choosing where I'm going to go to dinner today, because when I get to dinner, I'm going to be inspired by something that I see at the table that I can put into my work, or taking a hike up, the mountain and getting to the top and seeing those mansions, and I'm inspired to go back down and get my ass to work, So yeah, definitely inspired by my environment. What would life be without some fun? There would just be work all the time. We've all heard the say, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And that is 100% true. Every time that I take time to take a break, I create even a holiday, and my mother would attest to this all the time. Take a holiday for 1 month and I come back with 1 year worth of work in me. So it's important to take that time to, play, go to the beach, go sailing, go out clubbing if you like that type of stuff, have fun, laugh, just relax, lie down and be still. A huge part of having fun is also being still and just being present and, without any noise. And that's something, I know people don't see that on social media, especially if they're watching my stories. I'm always on the move, but that's not true. I take time to be still and be present and just not do anything, because that time I'm able to calibrate my thoughts. And you have all these ideas running through your head, but when you're just working, you're not able to, calibrate those ideas well enough, and so taking the time off to, 1, unwind and have fun, and then 2, rest and calibrate. For me, I like to take long breaks because I'm able to have a lot of fun in the first part of it, and then the second part of it, have a lot of rest time. And that rest time is giving me what we call ginger. Ginger to say, I want to get back to work. I want to go do this. I want to go do this. I want to go do this. That's a drive. So I try and take breaks at least 2 times a year, but on average 3 to 4 times a year. The chef that changed the West African culinary food scene. I want to be remembered as the man who made a lot of Black West African chefs' dreams a reality. I want to be remembered as a culinary artist or a culinary entertainer that lived a full life. I also want to be remembered as a God-fearing, family-oriented, and a person with a love for the people. But most importantly, I want to be remembered as the guy who really did change the culinary food scene. Last but not the least, my name is Tolu Eros, probably known as the Billionaire chef, and you have seen and heard the wonders that got me here.